What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be taking a look over here at the Bitcoin price chart as we are at a new all-time high. And while there's a lot going on out there in the crypto market, along with broader markets after the US election has now passed us by, we'll talk about the confluence of events that have happened here for Bitcoin, along with broader markets and the altcoin market, to show why this was an exciting move to happen in here. Of course, everybody gets excited because we set a brand new all-time high. But of course, 2 hours prior to that all-time high getting set, the Russell 2000 was able to break out from its last Fibonacci retracement level, the 786 fib, and was able to hold that daily candle right up at the top. And as we start today, still it's holding up there, did not just get faked out. It was a very clean, strong breakout that took place. After messing with it a couple of times, we finally got the big break. I tweeted about this Tuesday night that the Russell 2000 is ripping through the last retracement on election night as it was just starting to poke through there. Then shortly after, boom, Bitcoin went and set a new all-time high, breaking above $74,000. For those who have been watching the channel, and it has felt like living in Groundhog Day talking about this retracement level for the last 5+ months, well, sure, it's nice to see Bitcoin set a new all-time high, but is there any confluence to that? Definitely. We got the break happen over there in the Russell 2000, which is the broadening out of the United States stock market in a more risk-on environment rather than being super consolidated. We've gone through all of Bitcoin's past bull runs. We've gone through all the past bull runs 100 times. And this was always the mandatory requirement. And so we got the mandatory requirement and boom, Bitcoin goes for the all-time high breakout. Now, if you would have looked at the charts yesterday, there was lots of 40% up, 30, 20, lots of stuff in the teens. The market responded very positively to the breakout and broadening happening over here in the US stock market overnight and into the morning. But it does once again reaffirm the whole trade is all tied together. All the talk about this stuff wasn't nonsense, and it got proven by doing it within just a couple of hours of each other, with the Russell being the one to go first. But now, with Bitcoin in a brand new all-time high, the big question is what's next? We still just sit here waiting on the safety trade dominance to go ahead and start its breakdown. So I don't see any reason to think things are done just yet. It still seems like the insanely exciting time is still ahead of us, and this is likely going to make a lot of headlines. I've been through multiple news cycles with the crypto market before. Typically, it takes moments like this, and then it takes a little bit more, and then suddenly the news cycle, TV, CNBC, Bloomberg, all of them to really start covering it, and it starts really drawing in the masses. We could see in the last 30 days with Google Trends search volume for buy Bitcoin, just here in these last couple of days, there's been a little bit of an uptick now that Bitcoin set that new high. But in the grand scheme of things, it's still very low. This is what happens when the news cycle gets turned on. Zooming out even further, this is 2021. This is 2017. When these things start happening, that's when we really start to feel like this thing is overstretched. We can see how the Coinbase app rankings are at, where just a couple of days ago it was ranked number 428, then 361, then 355, then 155, and now here at 114. So it's not like a period of euphoria by any means, but this is how things typically start. This is the first phase, then comes media coverage, then comes euphoria and retail and craziness, and then the narratives that this is never going to stop, we're going to go up for forever. But if we're looking for things to say, does this thing have legs to it? Is this the start of something? And in my opinion, it is. I've spent too much time screaming about this thing. I got to a point in videos where I would just say, I know you're tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of talking about it. And I'm thrilled, utterly thrilled, to see that on the screen. I can't believe it. There it is. We talked about these things on Monday's video before we went into the election, and how when the election in 2020 happened, that was when the expansion in the Russell took place right here. When we go back to 2016, here's the election. There's the expansion taking place for the Russell. In 2012, it took a little bit longer, about a month. The election passed, and then a month and a half, 2 months later, the expansion ended up happening. However, in 2016, it happened just like this. And in 2020, it happened just like this. Now, I do think we're looking at this from a different context in regards to expansions like we saw in 2012, 2016, and 2020. I do think this is a different market. I do think there will still be upside that comes throughout this market, but I think it will just play differently than 2012, 2016, and 2020 in regards to length of time or how long the excitement ends up taking place. And the reality is, this is exciting. This is exciting, but I don't think the excitement has even started yet in regards to the actual chaos that takes place in crypto. I think it's coming. And when it does, I think we'll have to look at it through like a cautious lens due to this taking so long. And so I won't bore you to death with that, but we've talked about that quite a bit in past videos, that it's very different from 2012, 2016, and 2020 because we're playing the catch-up game with the Russell where all the majors are already out, but the Russell is playing catch-up rather than like in 2020, 2016, and 2012, where the broadening all happens together at the exact same time. The only one who got a jump start on any of it was the NASDAQ back in 2020. Otherwise, the S&P, the Dow Jones, and the Russell, they all expanded together. In times like this, they've only represented a couple of different things. One, either a major crash was coming, or two, it's like a rotational top happening at the peak of markets, which is what the entire topic was about that I wrote about in my most recent newsletter, that we weren't really mimicking things of being like, say, in C19 happening, but more so that this is very reminiscent of like the dot-com bubble, in which in the dot-com bubble, the same kind of dynamic happened where the major indexes caught a lead anywhere between 11 to 13 months over the Russell 2000. Like we could see here with the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ. This was the one other circumstance outside of C19 that was this extreme. And in this circumstance, it did lead to an exit happening here for the Russell. It did lead to a broadening out in the market. It did happen in early November of 1999. But important to remember, right, it only really lasted till about March and then things were over. But I mean, March from now, I mean, that's still 4 months away. A lot in crypto can happen in 4 months' time. And who's to say it's going to be exactly 4 months? There's no way to know. But this is the topic of what we've talked about in recent videos and live streams and what I went in depth about here. And so far, so good. We're still acting just like that. It's great to see it didn't do like a C19 crash, right? Because there's not many times where we've seen this dynamic happen in the Russell. The only times we really have are right before crashes or in rotational market tops. And rotational market tops absolutely can create this type of chaotic, exciting euphoria and rotations to happen. And I'm heavily leaning towards that's what is happening here. And most definitely, the first thing we needed to see was that. So thank goodness it has happened. No more talking about that. But of course, today, there's still more, right? If you thought that the election was something that would have been the only catalyst or exciting thing that could possibly happen this week, well, guess what? We get another FOMC meeting today with Jerome Powell speaking as the Fed gets prepared to do another rate cut. Currently, the market has it priced in at a 98.9% or 99% probability that the Fed will do a 25 basis point rate cut. Out of all the Treasury yields we looked at that seemed to be the most accurate during the last one, when they did 50 basis points, the 2-month government yield seemed to be the most accurate, which it also agrees. 25 basis points or 0.25% cut from the federal funds rate. Of course, the big question is, was the 50 basis point rate cut just a political stunt before the election after hiking, pausing, and then waiting until the last meeting before the election to do a bazooka 50-pointer? We'll see what their tone is like now that the election has passed. We will live stream this at 1:55 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:55 p.m. Central, and 10:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Otherwise, you're going to have to kind of figure out what that is for you. Otherwise, markets are happy to be past the election. We have the confluence of events with broader stocks. It feels good to just take a breath for a minute now. But at the same time, it is a wake-up call that all the things we've talked about with this thing, that it does matter and that it broke out. And then 2 hours later, Bitcoin set its new all-time high. I do believe it goes to show, if you have this whole picture figured out, then you can probably figure out the cryptocurrency market. It's all one big giant trade. And I don't think this thing can be ignored. And the reason we talked about it so much was because the last 3 times, 2012, 2016, and 2020, it did matter. And then here we are in 2024, and it did matter again. So I don't think ignoring this stuff is the wisest decision because the emphasis we placed on it all this time ended up being right. And it happened to be that exact moment that Bitcoin set the high. So we definitely do not have to talk about that 786 Fibonacci retracement level. Personally, I'm really not even worried about the all-time high at this point. So I don't think there's too much to have to sit here and talk about. I think if we end up poking above it, we'll celebrate that. We'll do all that because it just reaffirms this breakout was important. But I think the next time we'll be revisiting it is when we're kind of looking at it through that lens of the dot-com bubble, and that things we'll be looking for to confirm that it is like a rotational top is if we start poking through that high right there, and then you do actually start seeing NVIDIA, Apple, Amazon start to kind of sell off into this thing, starting to actually truly broaden out into new highs. That'll be kind of the next signal we're looking for to confirm that it is something like this. Otherwise, we're just sitting back and enjoying the show, waiting for this thing to eventually break itself down and for this to eventually break itself up. Otherwise, truly a celebratory time to get the confluence of both of these events with the Russell and Bitcoin at the same time. It wasn't a fake out. That was a real break. So all good stuff and a big sigh of relief to see that actually happen for the Russell and then take Bitcoin at the same time. It's just, that's what you want. So, all right. I'll check in with you guys later. I'll see you guys in the Fed live stream. Otherwise, of course, you can read all about the rotational top over here at blockchainbacker.substack.com. I do audio record these so you can listen to my beautiful voice read these to you. You can, of course, check out bcbacker.com with over 40 videos and 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts and indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. There are links in the description to this video and all of my videos to bcbacker.com and to the newsletter at blockchainbacker.substack.com. Otherwise, congrats to everybody who weathered through all of that. I do believe good times are ahead. But all right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.